Tech Mahindra and Mahindra together will jointly acquire Italian design firm Pininfarina. Keep in mind, Tech Mahindra will get a 60% stake in M&M, will get a 40% stake, and the entire deal value has been pegged at 50 million euros. And we have Rahul Jain, Vice President Institutional Research at Systematic Shares and Stocks, joining us on the phone line. Talk to us, put this deal into perspective for us. How much of an impact on the stock will it have come tomorrow morning?
Yeah, actually, I think, all these deals have become far more frequent and relevant in current scenario of growth rate decline. And specifically given the design part of the business, I think this gel well with the art to part kind of a strategy of M&M, where, it has been getting benefit of being an engineering company and getting a deal, IT deal front loaded with the engineering capability of the group business on the auto side and other segments. So and also from a share price perspective, I think there are more deal contours need to be known to understand the actual benefit. But yes, for a short-term perspective, it is a small positive because it definitely rev up the revenue growth perspective of the business.
All right, Rahul, we also have Nisha Podar, who broke that story. So remember, we broke the story and we're getting the details as it's being announced. And Nisha, thank you so much for joining us over here. Talk to us about the details of this deal. How will this pan out eventually?
So, Krishna, this deal is going to be in phases where in the first tranche, Tech Mahindra and Mahindra together will form one particular entity, which will be a joint venture between the two listed companies, in which 60% will be owned by Tech Mahindra, 40% by Mahindra and Mahindra. This entity will acquire whole of Pininfarina. In the first tranche, they will buy out shares at 25 million euros. After that, there will be an open offer for the shareholders, and there will be rights issue worth about 20 million euros. So all put together, the deal size could be about 50 million euros, depending on whether or not the entire open offer is subscribed to. What they're planning to do is that strategically, for Mahindra and Mahindra, it's a big brand when it comes to the designing of automobiles like Ferrari and all, which Pininfarina does. So it will give it that global footprint and branding. On the other hand, for Tech Mahindra, the technology part and higher tech designing is something that they are looking at incubating with this particular acquisition. So both put together, it will be a sizable amount of work that both Mahindra and Mahindra and Tech Mahindra can put in this new acquisition, which is smaller in size but larger in footprint.
Right. Rahul, hi, this is Ajay also joining in from the research desk. You may have heard my colleague talking about the contours of the deal, which we are gathering from our sources. But what are your thoughts in terms of strategic benefits? The way they are trying to structure the deal, part of it owned by TechM, which has got the best of IT capabilities, whereas part of it will be owned by Mahindra. The auto design benefits should be accrued in this side. And also your thoughts on the number which we are gathering, about 50 million euros. By when do you think the strategic benefits could start accruing to the group?
I think the broad benefit in terms of adding the client profile, upsell, cross-sell to these design companies obviously will accrue over a period of time. In short term, basically, the deal differentiation in terms of owning part own actually reduce the total cost of ownership for a Tech Mahindra who would not like to possibly, use all its inflows into this kind of an acquisition, because it would be relatively a swifter business acquisition in terms of deal ramp up and all that. So I think it's a good move in terms of making it capex to be light on two balance sheet. That is a better thing. But in terms of revenue rev up and all, I think it should take its own sweet time to get into all those synergetic cross-sell, upsell kind of a thing.
Right. Rahul, if one were to analyze the profile, the high-profile nature of Pininfarina as a company in terms of design capabilities, it's been associated with companies as reputed as Ferrari itself. Do you think M&M is heading in the right direction? Design is something which the company or the group needs to build more on, and hence the future launches from the group, at least in the auto space, would have the stamp of Pininfarina start showing in?
Maybe on the M&M side of the business, it has a different qualitative aspect in terms of design and all that. As far as the IT services part is concerned, I think uh, all these companies, all IT companies, do tend to work with the global 1,000 companies who are leader in their own perspective. As far as synergy to current set of client or business, I think it definitely helps the art to part kind of a move which the company has earlier envisaged because of its background on the engineering side of the business at the group level, and also its merger with the engineering services business which was outside Tech Mahindra and part of the Mahindra Group 12-18 months ago. I think all that capability put together definitely help in some upfront client winning strategy and in terms of gaining momentum. But all this business would be largely on-site centric and all. So the benefit in terms of EPS accretion and all has to be seen over a period of time.
Rahul, just wanted to understand. So we're still not clear about how these benefits will accrue and how it will show in its EPS over a period of time. But do you expect any reactions as far as the market is concerned come tomorrow morning, as far as the M&M stock is concerned? In fact, M&M today, after a gap down start, ended up with about a 2% gain as well towards the close of trade. How do you see it performing, say, come tomorrow morning?
I don't see major movement. Maybe 2%, 3% kind of a up move is what we expect given the data which we have.
All right, then Rahul Jain, we wanted to also check with you in terms of it's not the biggest of deals as far as the M&M is concerned. In fact, it has been picking up across the board from SsangYong to the French company that Mahindra picked up, and now there's picking up a company in Italy. On the whole, M&M's strategy to be in terms of its global ambitions seem to be gaining steam with all these successive sequence of acquisitions. That is set to bode well, at least for M&M in the short term over the next quarter or so, right?
Yeah, I think what is more important is their aspiration, global aspiration, has been measured in terms of the size of the acquisition they do, unlike Tatas or Birlas who have bought world largest kind of an Chorus or Alcoa kind of, or beg your pardon, the other deal which they did in the US in the aluminum side of the business. Those were far bigger acquisition and difficult to absorb over a time. In fact, on the contrary, M&M tend to acquire relatively smaller company and grow the business more organically on the inorganic acquisition, and which is working for them for last several years.
Rahul, please hold on the phone line with us because we also have Pankaj Sharma of Equirus Securities joining us on the phone line. Pankaj, thank you so much for joining us here for this big story. Tech Mahindra and M&M put together, set to acquire Pininfarina. Your first thoughts on this acquisition?
Thank you so much. I think overall it's a good thing because there are a lot of synergies which we see between these two companies. It's a company which is relevant for both M&M as well as Tech Mahindra. So I think overall it's a good thing, and in terms of the size, I think it should not be too difficult a task for TechM to absorb and assimilate this company. So I think overall it's a nice thing, and overall looks like that it's a good acquisition for them to make.
This comes on the back of, like say SsangYong, and then there's an acquisition in France which Mahindra did. So in a sense, this sort of Mahindra's global ambition sort of taking shape with all these acquisitions put together and doesn't weigh all that much on the balance sheet as well, right? So that's will that bode well for the stock in the short term?
See, I think the good thing about them is that if you look at whatever has happened so far, I think they have been quite successful in their acquisition strategy as such. And also, if you look at the situation in Europe today, the companies would be available at a reasonable valuation. And I also think that in terms of the impact on stock is, of course, something which is not that large. But I still expect that the market should like the acquisition and the stock should do well, at least marginally.
Right, Pankaj Sharma of Equus Securities and Rahul Jain, thank you so much for joining us right here on ET Now on this story that's breaking as we speak. And remember, we were the first ones to report it. We have had our correspondent Nisha Poddar as well, who joined us with the details of this all importantly. There you go, the M&M stock there after a gap down start, ending close to the day's highs. M&M and Tech Mahindra put together set to acquire Italian design firm Pininfarina for a deal worth over 50 million euros.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.